I don't even fully identify what the Democratic Party is anymore. It's not recognizable to me.
I'm kind of rethinking my thinking, and I do think that maybe it's time for the Democrats to do a little bit of this postmortem. I intend myself, what little I can do, to try to do that more. But then I'm kind of rethinking my thinking, and I do think that maybe it's time for the Democrats to do a little bit of this postmortem, because the Democratic Party has always been the party of the working class, has always been. If you look at all the policies, they're for the people. And I think even myself, as someone who grew up in abject poverty from the Bronx, my parents lived paycheck to paycheck. They had to decide whether or not they were going to feed me or whether or not we were going to have heat. And I remember that. And I think I missed the boat in terms of realizing that there are so many Americans that still have that experience that I grew up with and that members of my family grew up with. And so it is up to those of us who remember how that feels or who cares about that to reach out and say, come back, we can help you. And I intend myself, what little I can do, to try to do that more.
In the article, he quotes, I forgot the exact quote, but he said something about how it's become the party of college professors and, you know, like it's this removed group of highly educated. And I think the conversations around that, because the people on the other side were voting for Donald Trump, oftentimes those voters were kind of put in a bucket of not being smart and spoken down to. So I think it's a strange thing, because I don't even fully identify what the Democratic Party is anymore. It's not recognizable to me.
I do think it was trade deals feeling like America's being taken advantage of, and it affects the jobs that are largely working class and more industrial based, agriculture driven. And it was the border. It's not because they're like, oh, I'm nervous that somebody's going to come take my job. It's they know that big corporations take advantage of cheap labor, and those people are going to get employed while they're struggling to make ends meet. And I just want to say one thing, because Fetterman said something so interesting on the show we never discussed. I've used the term, Donald Trump's a convicted felon. I can't support that. But I think a lot of this country feels like we put people in a box if they're a convicted felon, even if they served their time, they paid their debt to society.
And we think it's got to be gone now.
And we think that they shouldn't be able to get ahead. And I actually think that backfired for Democrats. I think that people didn't like the name calling.
Now, they say that. They say, if we find out something, we'll let you know. But I don't know if they will.
I absolutely think the government knows what's going on. I don't hate that they're not telling us, because I actually think my theory is, and this is not educated or academic, is that they are testing technology for a time when we could need it. And I actually, because when you think about it, drones,
That's very doomsday, Sarah.
Well, they can go up to like $1 million. These drones are not cheap. Yeah. So someone with a lot of money.
Not the Christmas gift drones?
No. Those are not. But I think that they can do infrared. They can do a lot of things looking down. And I think they might be scanning and testing things. And I don't want them telling us, because then they tell the world.
So it is very likely that there is a plausible explanation. And my guess would be it's like a defense contractor that's authorized by the government to do it. Yeah. But the answering and the explanations is driving me nuts. So you have Mayorkas saying, we're on it. Well, what are you on? Because you can't tell us what it is. Yeah. Chuck Schumer saying you shouldn't have to shake an 8-ball for an answer. And then the joint FBI and DHS statement saying there's no evidence of a security risk at this time. That's doing a lot of work at this time. Yeah. People are a little bit, it's a little eerie looking.
And so if you're house hunting, apparently there's new tech startup platform that tells you the political affiliations of your potential new neighbors. Plus, I guess some real estate professionals believe that this could influence buyers more than the conditions of the home. And I think that is not a good idea, because number one, it's none of your business. And number two, it just fosters more division.
Yes. And to pretend that our divisions are just political is the best part, because jerks come in every political affiliation.
Progressives should defend Biden's legacy to protect their future. And EJ writes in part this: the trickiest problem for Democrats and progressives in the coming months will not be finding a new electoral strategy. A far more pressing imperative is to prevent Donald Trump's victory from discrediting Biden's genuinely impressive accomplishments and the course he set for the country, which was broadly correct. The truth about the Biden economy should not be lost in the mire of political defeat and messaging failure. It's a reality that will make it much easier to defend his domestic policy legacy. Defending this legacy is vital to battling against a sharp rightward turn in economic policy. Nicole Hemmer, a history professor at Vanderbilt University, argues this defense is equally important to preventing resignation from the left. One close election, she says, should not be misinterpreted as a mandate for abandoning pro-worker and pro-union approaches or a strong industrial policy. How Biden's term is remembered is not just about him, it's about the future.
So this idea that, everybody's fighting everybody right now, and everybody's screaming, and everybody's looking at Joe Biden as a failure, when the fact is, you just said it, unemployment, long-term unemployment, lower than any time in 40 years. As you said, black unemployment, lower than it's been in a generation. The U.S. dollar, stronger than it's been in 50 years over the Biden term.